Hi, mystery writers. Well, let's just jump right into plot holes. It's something that's really important to check, and we often don't catch them or even think about them when we're actually writing. So, if you're new to novel writing, you may wonder what a plot hole is, and you've read about them and you learn you have to fix them, but you aren't clear what a plot hole is. But it sounds as if part of the story plot is left out and readers will be left wondering what happened. In the worst case, that is what a plot hole is. But there's more to plot holes. In essence, a plot hole is a logic fail. A logic fail in your storyline. A plot hole or a plot error is an inconsistency or gap that counters the logic of your story's plot. For example, in a mystery, the victim was murdered on a stormy day. Let's just give that as an example. And one of the suspects says he was out taking a walk, and yet there's no evidence of muddy shoes or wet clothing or anything else that demonstrates the truth of that statement. Plot holes can occur in the main plot and also in the subplot, so you need to watch for them everywhere. The problem with plot holes is they take the reader out of the story, and as we've mentioned many times, we don't want to do that. So, fiction readers go into the story world and suspend their disbelief, but the plot holes jar them out of the story and make them question the entire story, and you don't want that to happen in your story. So, how to spot plot holes. Finding plot holes is an important aspect of your editing process, and as a writer, you want to tie up loose ends and plug up those holes to give your reader a smooth reading experience. So, here are some common plot hole errors you might find as you go through your first draft. A character's personality suddenly changes. Um, a secondary character has an issue or trouble, but it's not resolved in the story. Your reader's just left hanging, wondering what happened to Harry or whatever. Illogical events, for example, a character flies from um, California to France and meets a woman in a bar later the same morning. That just can't happen. It's impossible. It takes longer than that to make that trip. Uh, um, um, and illogical events, um, just you want to check that it all makes sense. So, or another inconsistency can be a character forgets an important detail that they knew earlier in the story. It's really easy for these things to happen when we're writing because we may be writing 100, 200 pages later than when that first instance occurred, and we may not quite remember what we did or said in the story earlier. All right. The thing is, only you, as the writer, know the logic of the story. But because a novel is long, it's hard to spot the inconsistencies while you're writing. So when you put aside the story for a couple of weeks and then read to edit, you approach your story with a critical eye, that eye of the reader. So let's look at some ways you can actually find plot holes while you're reading your manuscript. So be on the alert for plot holes, which you can remedy in your revision. Um, you're looking for inconsistencies and loose story threads. And my suggestion is don't try to fix them as you find them. This is part of the process, part of the editing process. However, you mark your manuscript or make notes, just note, on this page, I need to fix this thing that happens that is a plot hole. All right. Okay. So, first of all, remain objective. Um, you have to put on that editor's hat. And putting your manuscript aside for a few days, if not a couple of weeks, really helps you with that, approaching your story with fresh eyes and helping you maintain that objectivity. Another is to follow your characters. As you read, make sure that each character is consistent within the story and uniform in character. It helps when you do your character Bible and you really have a good handle on each of the characters, so that if you haven't written about a character, they haven't appeared in your story for 50 pages or 100 pages, that you can go back to your character Bible and make sure that your character is going to be consistent. All right. Another thing that helps is to create a story timeline. Make a list of chapters and major events in the chapter, and make sure the sequence of events makes sense, like that flight I mentioned earlier. Make sure that the days, months, years, or even morning to evening, everything flows in a timeline. Um, and you probably want to know which characters are present in each chapter. Uh, Actually, you may have done this in your story outline, but as you know, things change as you're writing, so you want to double check that those are really the characters that are in that chapter or scene. Then also take a look at your plot. Question the plot logic. Uh, has a journey or a question gone unanswered? Has a character made choices or said something that doesn't fit their personality? Just check those little things. This is a big part of the editing process. Editing is all about making your story flow as smoothly as possible for your reader. That's why all that grammar and stuff is important, because your reader won't get hung up with grammar, spelling, or errors or things like that. But the main reason for editing is to make your story as smooth as possible for your reader. And that's why looking for these story inconsistencies, the plot holes, as it were, um, is so important. Also, don't forget to check your subplots and follow each one from beginning to end and make sure all of them are complete. Um, and importantly, keep revision notes. I mentioned that a couple of minutes ago, but it's really important. Um, they may open up threads, so make sure that when you do your revisions, you aren't creating more inconsistencies, as it were. And then, last of all, when you've finished, hire a professional editor, because they are even more objective than you are, um, and they may catch things that you haven't caught. All right, and then let's take a look at how do you go about approaching fixing the plot holes. So once you discover those plot holes, you have to make a decision about how to fix it. And sometimes it's as simple as deleting a sentence. That's all it takes. Or you replace the sentence with one that makes sense within the story. But often a plot hole is part of the story thread woven into the story. So revision decisions are tough. Um, so here's some ideas. So rewrite an inconsistency to fit the story. For example, give the suspect who went for a walk in the storm muddy shoes or a damp jacket, and you fix that problem. All right. Make the implausible possible. Um, if a character is acting out of character, rewrite the scene to fit the character actions and speech with their overall character portrayal and role in the story. This happens a lot, not so much with our main characters, but with some of our supporting characters. Also, examine the character. What do they want? What is their goal? What is their plan? And you're doing that because you want to make sure it fits into your overall story structure. Um, you can also rethink a scene or a thread, really rethink it. Your first idea is not always the best idea. You may find scenes that you want to completely rewrite or even delete. Um, so go back to your original outline to check if the story goes off track from the original outline. And, and most of all, read the story as a reader. What would trip you up as a reader? So once you've identified the plot holes and considered ways to fix them, rewrite the sections that need change to make your story coherent. That's the whole idea of looking for plot holes and fixing them. All right. So I think the biggest thing to think about is you want to aim for consistency. A solid story outline before you write can help you avoid many plot holes. And if you are a pantser, you'll need to read your story carefully to identify those inconsistencies. Also, a strong, detailed character background for each character helps keep actions consistent within the story, especially when a character appears intermittently in your story. And once again, as you read as a reader. It's a mind trick for you to approach the story as though you know nothing, all right? Just the way your reader would. And you'll discover the places where the story may not make sense. These are the spots you need to fix. Um, okay, I hope that helps. And then, once again, a professional editor has no emotional attachment to your story. They are objective and can give you pointers on where they think the story might have some inconsistencies. As always, of course, when you use an editor, it's up to you whether to accept their recommended changes or not. Okay, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, I know this is a big thing. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. And thanks again, and keep writing.